Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to talk about how I overcame lifestyle inflation and how you can too. If you're new here, my name is Kathy and I'm 33 years old. I'm a software engineer who currently makes over six figures, but I wasn't always. When I graduated from college, my first full-time job was making less than $11 an hour, which was less than $25,000 a year. Now, 11 years later, I'm making 5 times as much. However, I've managed to keep my spending to less than 5 times as much, but that wasn't always the case. I was living paycheck to paycheck for years, and even though my income kept increasing, I never could seem to get off the hamster wheel of making more and spending more and making more and spending more. Until finally I realized that I had a problem. So these are the things that I did to reverse this trend and finally get off the hamster wheel. If that sounds like you, then hopefully these tips can help, and you can break the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck and finally start saving up for a better future. If you've clicked on this video, then you probably already know what lifestyle inflation is. It's also known as lifestyle creep, and it's when your spending continues to increase as your paycheck increases. So you keep making more money, but then you keep spending more money, and it always feels like you're living paycheck to paycheck and you can never get ahead. So maybe you get a raise and so you buy a better car, or you upgrade your house, you buy nicer clothes. All of these lifestyle upgrades can make you feel like you're never getting ahead, even as your income increases. So for me, when I got my first big raise, I made quite a few mistakes. So first of all, I upgraded my living situation. So I was currently living in a place where I was paying a little more than $1,400 a month, and my new rent at a luxury apartment was almost $1,800. And that doesn't seem like a huge jump, but I didn't need to increase my living situation quite so much. First of all, I was only one person and I got a 2-bedroom apartment, which I absolutely did not need. Plus, all of the fancy amenities that came with my apartment I didn't actually use. It had a gym and it had a pool, and I never used any of those things once. I could have easily found a cheaper apartment and saved that extra $400 a month. Also, since I rented this brand new larger apartment, I had to buy new furniture to furnish it. And although I bought everything from IKEA, and so it was relatively cheap, I definitely didn't need to purchase all of that furniture. The next mistake I made was probably the most common, and I bought a new car. I already had a car that was only about 4 or 5 years old, and I don't even think it had 100,000 miles on it, so it was still a perfectly good car, perfectly good to get me where I needed to go. I didn't need a new car, obviously, but I wanted one, so I purchased a brand new Prius Prime for $27,000. And of course I financed it because those monthly payments didn't look quite so scary as that full amount. I also upgraded my wardrobe and upgraded my beauty and care routine because I was in a professional setting. I thought that having new and expensive clothes is what I needed in this new professional setting. I remember I bought a brand new pair of Rothy's flats, which are shoes made out of recycled water bottles that are pretty expensive. But I thought that since I'm making so much more money, I should be paying $135 for a pair of shoes instead of buying them on clearance for $10. And although I love those shoes and I still have them, they were definitely an example of spending more just because I made more. Other things that I spent way too much money on were eating out and a delivery meal kit. And this was because I wanted to buy back some of my time that I was spending on shopping and food prepping. And I do think that this is a good idea because your time is very valuable. However, I was finding myself unable to save as much as I wanted to And so I realized that this was a little bit out of my budget at the time. And so if you're like me and you find yourself spending a lot with no savings at the end of the month, then the first thing you have to do is realize that you have a problem. And maybe if you've clicked on this video, you've realized that perhaps you have a problem and you need to make some changes. And you're here looking for tips on how to get yourself out of this mess. So it's all well and good to realize that you would like to get out of this mess. However, what's really important to start digging yourself out is to have a reason. So my reason was that I didn't really like my job and I wanted to have financial independence so that I wouldn't have to continue working for a paycheck to support my lifestyle forever. So I really was influenced by the financial independence, retire early, or FIRE community. And so I really wanted to get back my freedom and not have to go to a job every single day for the next 30 or 40 years. So my reason for reducing my spending every month was really just so that I could begin saving for a future with a little bit more freedom. But perhaps you like your job and your goal isn't to retire early. Perhaps you just want to take a few more vacations every year and you don't want to get yourself into debt going on those vacations. So it's really good to find your reason and make a reminder to yourself of why that's important. So if you want to travel a lot, perhaps create a vision board of all the places that you'd like to go and hang it on your wall so that you can see why you're reducing your daily spending and getting out of paycheck to paycheck living. So the next step is the first practical step, and that is to go through all of your bills. See what you're spending on every single month, those recurring purchases that come out automatically, plus every time you swipe your card or click buy now on Amazon. Keep track of it so that you know where all your money's going. But what's really important here is to go through those purchases and to see which ones were actually good purchases, things that added value to your life. Because you really want to cut out that mindless spending that doesn't help you reach your goal and also doesn't help you feel good as you're getting there. So when I did this, I realized that all of these new clothes that I was buying, I didn't actually like any of them. They didn't feel comfortable. I really just like wearing a t-shirt and jeans, and that's totally acceptable to wear that to work in the field that I'm in. So I didn't need to buy all these fancy clothes, and I didn't want all of these fancy clothes. So I went through and I decided that I'm going to cut out purchasing new clothing, purchasing makeup because I didn't wear it anyway. And I really only allowed myself the things that made me feel good, which was buying clean and organic food and eating out only occasionally. I also went through all of my subscriptions and I realized that I didn't need all these different streaming services because I barely watched anything anyway. I realized that I preferred reading books, and so I got myself a library card and I got myself the Libby app, and I just started checking out books for free. I didn't need to be paying for all of these subscription services to TV shows and movies that I don't even like. But of course, if these subscriptions add value to your life, then you don't want to be cutting them out. But you really need to weigh whether paying for the subscription now is more important than saving that money and getting yourself off of this lifestyle inflation cycle. Next, to really make progress, you're going to have to make some cuts. I did this, especially starting this year. I've made further cuts for my life by doing my low spend challenge. And for this, I cut out almost everything that wasn't absolutely necessary. Now, you don't need to go that drastic, but it was really important for me this year to really make progress on decreasing our spending. But for you, you could just cut out the things that you don't really need for maybe a month or two and see how it goes, because you may realize that once you start decreasing these things that they weren't actually necessities to begin with. And that's the whole thing with lifestyle inflation. The more things that you add, the more purchases that you accumulate, you start to feel like these are things that I absolutely need to maintain my life, to survive every day. But once you start slowly cutting those things back out, you may begin to realize that they weren't things that you absolutely needed and that you can live without them, at least for now, while you get yourself back on track towards saving. Along with just cutting out purchases you don't need, you may be so deep in the hole every single month that you really need to come up with some extra cash to get yourself out as soon as possible. And to do this, you may want to sell things that you don't absolutely need. Probably throughout the years, you've bought a lot of things that you don't need and that you don't use anymore, and it's just sitting there taking up space. So you may want to try and sell those things to get some extra money to throw towards your debt or towards your savings goals so that you can get yourself back on track faster. This next step is not only important if you want to reverse lifestyle inflation, but to make sure that it doesn't happen again, is you really need to unfollow anyone who encourages you to purchase things. So anyone who's always showing you the latest, most trendiest things that you absolutely have to have, you really need to unfollow those people. I know it's harsh, but they're really just selling you an unattainable lifestyle. And along with that, you'll want to unsubscribe from any marketing emails, any stores that send you coupons and sales flyers, because they're trying to get you to spend more money that you don't need to be spending. Right now, I don't think that I have a single email from any stores coming into my mailbox. I have unsubscribed from everything because I don't want to be tempted to buy. I know that when I get those emails in, it happened earlier this year, I got an email in for a sale and I was thinking, oh, I should really buy that, even though it was something that I did not need at the time. So I know how hard it is to ignore those emails when they come in, so it's just been so much more helpful for me to unsubscribe from them. We're bombarded with so many ads all day long that we have to do as much as we can to try to prevent ourselves from being swayed by these ads. So blocking them as often as you can is going to be really helpful. The final thing that helped me is just to review this as often as you need to. This isn't a delete everything, unsubscribe from everything, never buy anything ever again plan, because that is destined to fail. So what you want to do is set your plan and review it, maybe in 6 months, maybe in a year. Decide if the subscriptions that you kept, maybe you don't need them anymore, maybe you want a different subscription instead, or perhaps you realize you really do want to trade in your old gas-guzzling car for an electric vehicle. As long as you realize that it's something that you actually want and you're not being influenced by your neighbors, your friends, people you see on YouTube or Instagram, that these are your actual desires and that this is what's actually important to you. So these are some of the things that I did to prevent myself from just blowing my 6-figure salary and begin to save and invest for the future. I hope you found this helpful. I hope there were some tips that you could use. Let me know in the comments if you were able to beat or prevent lifestyle inflation. I'd be really interested to hear what some of your tips were. If you're interested in seeing more of my family's journey towards financial independence, then please hit subscribe because I would love to have you follow along. I post videos every single week going over our budget, our savings, our debt payoff, and really all of the details of our finances. So if you're interested in any of that, then I would love to have you as a subscriber. Thank you for being here.